GlobeChain is the largest and fastest growing ESG reuse marketplace that helps companies become more sustainable, save money, and achieve their ESG and SDG targets. GlobeChain connects companies from the construction, retail, hospitality, and office sectors with nonprofits, small businesses, and people to redistribute unneeded items, reducing waste from going to landfill. From fixtures and fittings going to thrift stores and being upcycled by fashion students, to construction material being reused to help build schools, items are requested super quickly and help generate impact to local communities. So far, GlobeChain has diverted over 58 million kilograms of items from landfill, and they've helped over 50 million people across the world, saving them 350 million pounds through reuse. Check them out at globechain.com. Approximately 12 billion sanitary pads and 7 billion tampons are thrown away each year in the US alone, and these products are made mostly of plastic. So Hetal and Chirag Virani started Sparkle, making biodegradable and compostable period products out of waste plant materials, thereby contributing to a circular economy. Hetal and Chirag go beyond making a positive impact on the environment by using a percentage of profits from every purchase to provide sustainable pads and health education to menstruators in need in India. Hi, Hetal. Hi, Chirag. Thanks so much for being on the show. It's great to have you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you very much for inviting us.
Of course. And so to get started, just to share a little bit about what it is that you do, can you briefly describe what exactly is Sparkle?
So, Sparkle is a sustainable period care brand. We make plastic-free, biodegradable, and compostable sanitary pad, which can go back to nature after disposal. We aim to reduce plastic pollution and supporting circular economy. I was shocked to know that the conventional pads contain up to 90% plastic. The absorbent core made with sodium polyacrylate, which is a super absorbent polymer, which is also derived from petrochemical byproduct. And since they are single-use disposable products, which can use only for the couple of hours, so after they are discarded, they remains unchanged in the landfill for more than 500 years. And that's why we have decided to develop biodegradable and compostable sanitary pads by using sustainable ingredients which are gentle to the skin and kind to the planet.
You're replacing a single-use plastic with something that is the sanitary pads, are they completely 100% biodegradable and compostable, or are there any materials in there that are not compostable?
So I think let us start with actually answering your question. So in terms of the breaking it down to layer by layer. So the first layer, if we compare to conventional product versus a Sparkle product. So the top layer, we have replaced the polypropylene with the cellulose-based fibers. The back film, again, from polyethylene, we have replaced it with the home compostable. So it's a TUV Austria certified home compostable granules. So the back film is also biodegradable, fully compostable. The central core, we have replaced the super absorbent polymers with the cellulose-based fiber. So it's not completely biodegradable. It's still bio-based. It's adhesive because the technologically, if we look at the technological advancements, the adhesive technology has not reached to a point where it is completely compostable. With that being said, we are actually currently working with the leading manufacturers. These are 100-year-old companies that are experts in this field, and we are actually getting the fully compostable glue being developed as well, which can be replaced with the current adhesive. So we're pretty much trying to change at the molecular level the chemistry so that, at least we can make the entire product fully biodegradable and compostable. At this currently, it is around 96 to 97% except adhesive. So, but still, to be able to qualify the product to be certified biodegradable and compostable, even if your product can reach up to 90% of biodegradation compared to reference frame, which is cellulose, so EN 13242 certification, it is qualified as biodegradable because there some ingredients that we are, it's a limitation is the technological advancement as a civilization. So we need to work towards, getting those, the tiny bits in place, and then we will be able to go with the fully biodegradable and compostable product.
And rightly so, the kind of the challenges that we're currently facing with the period product industry, and Hetal, you mentioned single-use plastic and a lot of it. So can we kind of in two sections? So first we'll talk about what that means for the environment, and then we can talk about potential human repercussions as well of this much waste. So if we start with the environment, what is the current challenges with the amount of period product waste that's being generated?
Correct. So see, I mean, it's we are all well aware the world's population menstruates. And if we look at the numbers, I'll break it down into two segments. So we'll first look at the units. So in terms of the overall hygiene industry, which is we can segment, we can use it as the single-use disposable hygiene industry. So it is around 532 billion products per year. So around the globe, when we look at the all the sanitary pads, diapers, it comes to around 532 billion units. Now, of this hygiene industry, period products make up of up to 58% of this. So around 300 billion units are used and discarded every year around the world. If we break it down to two geographic segments where we currently operate, so one is India and the other is the North America. So in India, the industry, the period care industry is currently around 15 billion units. So in India, every year around 15 billion single-use period products are being used and discarded. And because of cultural reasons, tampons or reusables are not that popular. So majority of these products are actually single-use sanitary pads. And if we look at basic calculations, so average weight of a sanitary pad is around 10 grams. And if we look at 15 billion sanitary pads weighing at around 10 grams each, it results into around 150,000 tons of waste that is generated every year. And looking at this number, in India, only around 36% of the population, of menstruating population of around 355 million, have access to sanitary pads. Now, it is estimated that as the income grows, as the accessibility increases over the next 5 years, so by 2026, it is estimated that the 15 billion units that are currently being used and discarded, it will be almost double to 30 billion units. So the waste of around 150,000 tons that is generated at now, it will be around 300,000 tons. So this is only one country in India. Around 20 billion single-use period products are being used and discarded every year. And out of those 20 billions, around 12 billions are single-use sanitary pads. When we look at the amount of waste from period products that is generated around the world, it is just incredible, because we're not talking about just hundreds of thousands of tons. We're talking about millions of tons of non-biodegradable plastic waste that is being generated from just one of the products that we might not even consider that it is actually made of plastic. These are the products that where you can consider it's like a hidden plastic, because it's not really like a carry bag plastic that's screaming in front of you. It is sort of, it looks like non-plastic, but it is actually like fundamental. It is a petrochemical derived product that is just causing a lot of plastic pollution. And this is what we wanted to address with Sparkle.
Yeah, well, that's those numbers are quite staggering. And to think of 150,000 tons of waste generated per year just from this one type of product, and that's from
just one country, like in
one
India,
country,
yeah.
and not even, and like you said, not all women even have access to the
only 36%. Yeah,
right. And so, and that number is going to double, hopefully, I suppose. Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword, I suppose, because if it doubles, that means more women have access, which is important. And we can talk about that more later. But that comes at a cost to the environment as well. And being said, what makes Sparkle's products so special? I mean, you've already outlined a little bit about how they're made. So without going, I suppose, too technical, but you saw these huge challenges, and now you've taken some action. And so what is the innovation, I suppose, in a bit more depth than the intro?
So unlike the conventional sanitary pads, which contain up to 90% plastic and that may cause the rashes and the irritations and infections, Sparkle pads are made from natural, sustainable, and renewable ingredients which are soft on your skin and gentle to the planet. And we have designed sparkle sanitary pads by focusing on entire product life cycle, starting from choosing the sustainable ingredients to the responsible disposal. And therefore, sparkle products are also compostable, which means they are designed to biodegrade in humid and warm conditions.
Thank you. And you mentioned responsible disposal. What does that mean?
All right. So, see, as I'll just add a little bit onto what Hetal was saying. So, when we look at the environmental impact and overall product life cycle, right? We must consider, when we design a product or when we're trying to address one problem, we must learn to, as a manufacturer, as a startup, we must learn to understand what happens to the product, not only while it's being used, but also what happens to it when it's discarded. So if we look at just a brief overview of current limitation of our own waste management infrastructure. So if we look at India or even any, in the US or the UK, sanitary pads are qualified or they fall into solid waste stream. So what happens to it, when you discard a sanitary pad or a baby diaper, it pretty much goes through solid waste management system, and then it ends up either in a landfill or it ends up in an incinerator, depending on what type of incinerator it ends up in. Because if we look at a well-developed incinerator that operates at around 900 degrees, where products end up actually reach complete combustion, where versus there are some decentralized incinerator that operate at a lower temperature, so the product does not reach complete combustion, and so that is where it results in very toxic fumes, because the petrochemical byproducts, it is made from complex synthetic superabsorbents, complex polymers. So when it is incinerated, also we have to ensure that what happens to it at the end of its life cycle. Now, where there is no, if we look at rural villages or rural communities where there is not really established solid waste management infrastructure, so where this is where either these products are buried in the soil, they are discarded in open water bodies, where eventually they will end up in in oceans. And when in the ocean, it will damage marine life, as well as through break it down into microplastics. We all know what happens to microplastic. It sort of can also come back to our plate through multiple layer of food chains. So other than that, if you pretty much in many areas they flush down the toilet, which again then they reach the ocean. So the infrastructure, there are some limitation, but when we look at the entire product life cycle, and we look at all the scenarios, so starting from landfill, incinerator, or looked at all these aspects, and we came back to the drawing board. Okay, we want to make the product by not only choosing sustainable ingredients, but also ingredients that actually perform as well as the petrochemical ingredients. But at the same time, let's see how they will react at all the different disposal scenarios. So if we look at, we actually took the ingredients, we one by one, we did all the testing. So we send the product, let's say if we take the first scenario, so if it ends up in landfill. So usually what happens with, biodegradable products, they behave, they pretty much biodegrade in a compostable environment, but when they end up in landfill, because landfills are very interesting, there is no air, so there is anaerobic digestion. There is it's like when garbage just keeps piling up, there is no light exposure, so there is no UV exposure, so there is photo degradation that doesn't take place. So it's pretty much, it's like garbage that keeps piling on and on and on without even excess of oxygen. So there we have to design the product where there is a lot of cellulose or things that can even break down in landfill in very stagnant conditions. There is no turning like compost, right? So we actually sent our product to one of the most reputed labs in Europe. They are the only ones that do actually landfill, one of the few ones that do landfill testing. And there we did a stimulation where we do an accelerated landfill testing, where the product can actually stimulate how it will react in 1 year in being in landfill. So there we realized that, when we look at, there is two ways you can evaluate the studies, is absolute biodegradation in landfill and relative biodegradation to cellulose sample. So with our product reached relative biodegradation of around around 60%. And when you look at this compared to the conventional product, it remains unchanged for 500 years. So this is a huge step in the right direction. And obviously the technology is improving, and we are also continuing to improve, what we are, how we can make this more sustainable. So this is just one of the scenarios. And if we look at, a different product end life cycle. So if we look at the incineration, for example, so we did a comparative study where a sparkle pad is incinerated, and then you do analysis of what type of fumes are generated, what is the emission profile, and then you incinerate a conventional product with petrochemical byproducts. And it was, even I was shocked, to see the results, because when you incinerate at 900 degrees, there was 700% more methane that was released from conventional pads compared to when you incinerate a sparkle pad. So it's not just, what happens, the nature has created these ingredients for a reason, where you do a lot of complex modification, right? It just makes it difficult and to break down by bacteria, or also when you burn it with fire, it will just result in some crazy chemicals that we can't even pronounce, so like when we try to choose ingredients, we're trying to keep the things in the raw natural form as much as possible, so they can break down by the natural, nature's ability to break things down. So we've looked at the incinerator, how it pretty much behaves in an incinerator. We've looked at the landfill scenario, and then also, since it is made of home compostable ingredients as well, it is also possible to compose these products at home. And in industrial composting setting, they're certified to be biodegradable in 4 to 6 months and go back to nature without leaving any toxic residue. So industrial compost, where the temperature is around 60 degrees, even if you do hot composting at home, it is very easily biodegradable. And even if you have regular compost at home, it may take a bit longer to degrade because it has bodily fluid, and it is recommended to keep it for a longer duration. But it is still possible to compost these products at home, because the ingredients are chosen in such a way that they are designed to biodegrade at around 30 degrees temperature. So it's like ambient temperatures.
Does that include the adhesive as well?
So the adhesive is the only ingredient that does not break down, but it also, we have done the testing as well. It does not have any negative impact on the compost. It just remains inert. So out of 100%, we are looking at only 2 to 3% of the composition that remains inert, and it will not affect the quality of compost. It will not hurt any of the microbiological content of the soil. So all the over 95% of the product will go back to nature. And the other couple of percent, we are not going to give up, and we'll go more into detail about our plans of over next 40 years. So we've carefully planned, the 40 years of our life, and we'll go into, what we have in mind in the future, just to get rid of, a little bit of that. It just bugs us as well, that why can't we reach 100%? But that is where the technological limitation comes in place.
Out of everything you've outlined, I think it sounds really impressive, and clearly there's a big positive environmental impact. There's a concept that you write about on your website called circularity, and I think some people may know about it, some people don't. But what is circularity, and what exactly does that word mean in this context?
All right. So when we look at the product life cycle, we can look at it as so I'll break it down into 3. So we look at linear economy, so where you take a product, take, make, dispose, which is the current conventional products. We look at recycling economy, where whenever it's possible, you take resources, you make something, whatever you can recycle, you recycle. In most cases, it's usually downcycle, and then again it goes into landfill. So it's a slightly better approach. If the recycling is done properly, then it is a very good approach. But current reality we live in, even the most recyclable products are only 9% of them are recycled. So even in the recycling economy, there is it needs work to reach towards circularity, where the more products can actually recycled as much as possible. And when we look at the circularity in terms of compostable items, we look at this in a way where consider the circularity in ingredients and circularity in the products as well. So when we consider the ingredients, for example, so one of the ingredients we use is banana fiber, for example. So it is actually agro waste, and usually, after each harvest, the stems are wasted. And what we do is we use these stems, we transform the stem into absorbent cellulose fiber, and then we use it. So we are trying to utilize waste that is not currently being utilized. When we look at the product itself, as we grow, we are also trying to design a system where the product are actually composted. So we have so far we've come to a point where we've designed the product. We know that it is compostable. It can be composted at home, industrial composting setting. And as we grow, we are also, and we'll talk more about this later. But just to give you a brief overview, in terms of circularity, we are trying to build an infrastructure where we do. Just like when you return parcel from Amazon, so we are doing, we're providing this as a service, as a pilot project, where these products are collected. So the consumer, there are some very eco-conscious consumers who are willing to pay extra, like, here, take my product and make sure that they're composted properly. So we have done a pilot, and we take the product and we actually compost that at a pilot composting site, so that the product actually goes back to nature, and the whole circularity in terms of it becomes manure, it becomes a part of the soil, and then where the crop is growing. So when we look at the whole circularity in terms of product, it is about choosing sustainable and compostable ingredients. Once they're used, again, making sure that they go through the composting infrastructure, go back to nature. So this is what we mean, and what we're working towards, in terms of circularity of the end product.
Amazing. And what I really like about what you've talked about is using waste that would not otherwise be utilized, like banana stems. I mean, what happens to these banana stems? And I'm sure you have examples of other waste products as well, but specifically banana stems, what happens to them normally if you don't use them?
So see, I come from a family of farmers. So my grandfather is still a farmer. And so this is where one of the missing piece of puzzle that it took me a while to realize that, okay, this is something you could have done a long time ago. But in any case, so usually, even at our farm, before we started utilizing this for making our products, it's either, after 9 months, they're pretty much waste. So farmers have to either pay extra to get them out of their farm, or they either burn them, which again causes air pollution. So they're pretty much waste. So it's a hassle for farmers. So now that, we have this infrastructure for fiber extraction, we have also collaborated with farmers nearby. And then, they have hundreds of acres of plot that is just like our fiber extraction unit is actually located at one of the biggest banana growing belt of Gujarat. So we are actually now collaborating with a lot of local farmers where we get their stems, and then trying to start a chain reaction, because India is one of the biggest banana producers in the world. So once we have this pilot unit set up in India, we're trying to replicate this model in different states as well, where we can utilize the banana stem. It not only gives farmers some extra income from the stem that was not being utilized, but also reduces the waste, and then we get to convert that into sustainable raw material. Now that is one aspect. Then the other is bagasse. We are doing a lot of research in terms of sugarcane. So bagasse, for those who are not aware, it's a sugarcane waste that is a byproduct of sugar production. So we are trying to utilize that waste as well. So usually what happens to bagasse in the sugar mills, they are pretty much burnt as a fuel in their boilers, or sometimes in the crops as well, they're burned as well. So we're trying to utilize this fiber as well, and trying to see if we can utilize this in the absorbent hygiene product. Another fiber is jute. So there are a lot of fibers, agro-based fibers in India we're trying to work with. So see if we can, utilize the resources that are not currently being wasted.
Yeah, and I think what makes a lot of sense about that is the win-win-win situation associated.
Exactly.
The farmers win because all of a sudden they have a new revenue stream, which I mean, in some cases they used to pay to get rid of it. Now they're being paid to get rid of it, which is brilliant, and it makes it much easier to source that resource. And then, of course, you and your customers win because you're getting high quality products that are better for the environment and better for health, which we'll talk about shortly. And then, of course, the environment wins because you're reducing the amount of waste that's happening in general. And so, I think it makes a lot of sense. And so this concept of basically ensuring that nothing goes to waste unnecessarily and using all parts of, just going back to the banana because it's an easy fruit to picture. You use every single part of the banana and none of it goes to waste. You're not just throwing it away. Instead, you're taking advantage.
Correct.
You're taking advantage of all aspects of it, and then once you turn it into the period product, and the period product is used, then it goes back into the environment because that is also composted. And so then you can,
correct,
using that compost, you can grow a new banana, which then goes back into the,
you close the loop, pretty much the entire cycle,
Exactly. And that's why it's circular, because and I guess the whole point of circularity is that we're able to, just bigger picture, outside of Sparkle, just in general, if we can find these kind of solutions for all products, I mean, think like every single product, that I think that's the big challenge. And it's amazing that you're focusing in this area, but if we just think in terms of sustainability in general, it's a huge challenge. I mean, how do you make a computer circular, or other aspects? But anyway, that's a conversation for a separate episode. So if we move over from the environmental side to the human side of this product, and there's two aspects that I'd like to cover. First, we'll talk about the health aspect. So there are two elements that I'd like to cover. First, we'll talk about the health side, because you mentioned, Hetal, you mentioned irritation, and I know there's more behind that, and then also the socio and sort of economic and cultural elements as well of the products that you work in. So can we talk a little bit about the health impacts? So the first thing, just I think worth mentioning, is that I've heard at least that it's not very healthy to constantly wear or have petrochemicals. It's not very healthy to have petrochemicals touching you all the time. Like, so the idea of wearing like a plastic shirt, or no one thinks it's plastic, but if you look at the ingredients, it's all polyester. That's a plastic shirt, synthetic. Yeah, so that's not a very healthy thing. And there's some irritations that come from that. So can you share a little bit about the health impacts of, I suppose, conventional period products, and then we can talk about the benefits of Sparkles.
When we speak about the health aspect, we need to consider the few factors which is associated with it. Most conventional sanitary pads, which you're getting to, the most conventional sanitary pads that you see in the market today, they contain dyes, plastic, artificial fragrances, and many other chemicals. So that may cause rashes and irritations. So when I share my personal story, I also used to get a lot of rashes since I have the sensitive skin, and most often during the last few days of your periods while you have the very light flow. And when you see the problem, so the problem behind the plastic is this plastic is not a breathable, so that can create the sweaty and humid environment near the very sensitive and the very intimate area of your body. And the super absorbent polymer that have in the sanitary pads, so this synthetic super absorbent polymer can create your pad long lasting, but at the same time that can also promote the unwanted growth of bacteria in your pad. And when we also that's why we have designed these sparkle sanitary pads by replacing the plastic layers with sustainable ingredients, and so that your pet do not cause any discomfort to you.
Thank you. And in terms of why sustainable products don't cause discomfort, can you share a little bit? Can you share a little bit about why using sustainable products, or, I mean, we've been talking for some time about.
In this,
go ahead.
In the sustainable sanitary pads, we are using each layer. If we see the top layer, that is made from the bamboo fibers, which is very soft, and as compared to the polypropylene versus bamboo fiber, it's a huge difference. So you have to make sure that the top layer of the sanitary pads that come to the very sensitive, that actually touch to the very sensitive area of your body. So, and again, the absorbent core is a cellulose. Back film is also made from the bioplastic grades, but the main part is the top sheet, which is made from the bamboo fiber. So, cellulose versus, as you mentioned, this synthetic shirt if you wear versus the cotton shirt you wear, right? So, the feeling is completely different.
Mhm.
And from the point of view of the infections, I mean, infections sound awful, and to think of a product that's supposed to help and protect and keep you, clean, the last thing you would want from such a product is potential infections. And so, how does the Sparkle sanitary pad prevent infections?
All right, let me take that one.
Yeah.
So if you look at the scientific point of view, right? When we look at the causes for rashes and infection, this is after I obviously see. Usually, on a side note, when I start talking about these issues, I get the questions like, you are a guy, you don't get periods. How can you talk about? So this is a separate issue altogether. There's nothing to do with sustainability. But what we have done is we've done a lot of seminars with gynecologists. This is what I've heard from how they describe, when they give the seminar. So usually the causes of infection from what we have heard is it's usually the growth of bacteria. And so some of the reasons why it creates the growth of bacteria is how long you wear the product, and if the product inside is letting your skin breathe. So what happens is, when you have super absorbance, what it does is it sometimes also wicks away the moisture, because when you have a pad with a very high absorbency capacity, because super absorbance, they can absorb the synthetic ones, they can absorb almost 500 to 1000 times their own weight. And some of the pads that are available in the market, they claim it can absorb 200 ml of fluid entire cycle.
Sorry, Chirag, I heard 200 ml of fluid.
Yeah. So there are many companies, using synthetic superabsorbents. They claim that our pad can absorb 200 ml of fluid, right? Mm-hmm. If you look at logically, the entire cycle, you lose around 60 to 80 ml of fluid, right? And that is also not, it's spread over like, a couple of days, so 4 to 5 days. So when you are using a product with this much absorption capacity for whatever reason, maybe they're using it from marketing point of view, because hospitalized, if this is not.
Sorry, Chirag, it said you said from a marketing point of view, and then.
Yeah. So it's like people are making these products, with claiming that I think I'll take it one more time. I think you froze now. So right. there are products in the market that they claim that, they can absorb 200 ml of fluid. So when we look at these high absorption products with, very high capacity of the absorbent, so what they do is they can sometimes also wick moisture away from your skin. And, and it encourages you to use the product for a longer duration, which is the one of the reason which causes for bacterial growth. And that in turns, like you're supposed to change a product every 4 to 6 hours, according to gynecologist, whether it is capable absorption or not, because that pretty much, causes the bacterial growth. So in terms of infection, the main reason is, one of the reasons is that. The other reason is the rashes is also how it interacts with your skin. So it's just like Hetal was mentioning, with the synthetic shirt versus you get, when it rubs against your skin, right? If it's like, if you see some of the products that I was shocked to see, like even if you touch it, it is rough. It's like it's a dry net type of, it's pretty much plastic layer. Just imagine the regular carry bag, like polyethylene bag with tiny holes in it. Mm-hmm. So that is the top sheet of many products, it's called dry net. So just imagine that rough surface constantly rubbing against your skin. So that is where that was one of the reasons that caused, in many of the surveys that we have done with the studies. So we have done, when we do our, product trial with the customers, we give them one product, which is our product, and versus the other product. And then the comments that we receive is because of the rubbing against the skin, usually during the light flow days is when they get rashes. And that is where the soft top layer made of natural fibers comes into effect.
So yeah, moving from the health aspect over to the other side of the human question in terms of how your pads are helping people from a socioeconomic and from a cultural point of view. Can you share a little bit about what the current situation is, especially since you've started doing your work in India? You mentioned that 36% of women have access to sanitary pads. So can you share a little bit about what is currently the situation, and then how Sparkle is making an impact?
So when we talk about the menstruation, there are many factors that we need to also consider, such as cultural stigma, awareness, educations, and not last but least, uh, the access of the sanitary pads. So if we look at the figures, around 36% out of 355 million menstruators have access to sanitary pads. 70% of the menstruators, they do not know about the menstruations until they get their first period, due to surrounding stigma out of that, surrounding stigma of it. And if you see, millions of girls, they drop out of school just because after they reach their puberty. We believe everyone should get the equal access and equal opportunities to reach at full potential, to work at the office, or to 36% out of 355 million menstruators, they have access to sanitary pads. And shockingly, around 70% of menstruators, they do not know about the menstruation until they get their first period, due to the surrounding stigma out of it. And millions of girls, they drop out the schools after they get the puberty. So we believe that everyone should get equal access and equal opportunity to reach out their full potential. And with our impact partners, we donate sustainable sanitary pads, and we also provide sustainable health educations to all the people who are in need, so that the young teenagers do not need to leave their schools. And we also collaborate with the NGOs and schools, colleges, even hospitals, for spreading the awareness regarding mental issues, menstrual hygiene, by conducting the education seminars with the doctors and the gynecologists.
Yeah, I think that work is really important, and something that I'd like to learn a little bit more about. It's hard for me to understand, and this is partially because, well, I've never. It's hard for me to understand because I was born in California. That's where I was raised, and things are a little bit different. So can you tell a little bit about why do millions of girls drop out of school after reaching puberty? What is the cause of that?
See, should I take it?
Yeah, take it.
Daniel, I think I might be doing a little bit more talking. It's okay? Or
see, to be very honest,
to
I'm a chartered accountant, I'm a cost accountant, I'm
She is
handling the
not-
finance part of this company. Really, I do believe
she's a
in it.
numbers person, so I just want to make sure you don't feel like I'm not letting her talk.
No, remember, this
He
is
knows everything, and I know about everything about in terms of finance, and the production. Yeah.
She's just here.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's however you want it. It's your company representation. So I'm happy if it's just Hetal. I'm happy if it's just you, Chirag, whatever you prefer. So yeah, totally your choice.
Yeah.
See, we want people to know the reality, the fact, and he knows better than me. So it's better, like, if he knows and he speak about it.
See, usually what happens, Daniel, I'll tell you, even on air, or even just as is still, we are trying to find stigma, from my, as a male being in the industry, right? We're often told that the representation should be, a menstruator, so like a female face, right? So that is where we are trying to find a balance, where how far we push to a point where if I be allowed in a way that it should not.
Sorry, Chirag, you said something about how far we push.
Anyways, so this is not really part of the script. I was just talking to you, but anyways,
gotcha.
So going back to the question, maybe we'll have another discussion after this thing, but so sorry, what was the question that we were discussing?
So the question is, why do millions
millions
of
of
girls?
girls drop out.
So I'll also try to cover the next part of the question that is there as well. Like, what was the moment, because it sort of answers the question as well. So uh, uh, what we feel, or what we have discovered from a number of NGO sessions that we have done, a lot of awareness seminars and pad donation camps that we have done, is when young girls don't have access to pads, they usually stop coming to schools. Or if we look at the scenarios where they are, they don't go out to play as often. Usually they use just a cloth or any other unhygienic method, stay home, because if they come out to school, if there is a stain or some other cultural stigma, so it's pretty much lack of access has a direct impact on their attendance at school. So when they don't come to school for 4 or 5 days every month, they sort of start falling behind in their syllabus, reach puberty. So usually in India.
Sorry, Chirag, you said it just cut out. So you said when they don't go to school 4 or 5 days, they start falling behind.
Yeah. So, and this is sort of, and that's where the chain reaction starts, as they start falling behind in the schoolwork, then the chain reaction of getting good grades, getting a good job, getting it's a full cycle, that pretty much goes from missing a few days in school to the poverty that cycles back into, having access to equal opportunity. So just missing a few days. And this I've noticed, not only in India, but if we go back to my early days of why we started Sparkle, or what was the first thought, because as a male, as any non-menstruator, this is not the situation that we are really aware of. As me as well, when we first started, and first I learned about periods was when we are taught in biology class, or just when you hear people talk, but like exponentially you don't know what it feels like to menstruate, right? And for me, the first time I learned about period was when I was doing a lot of work with NGOs. So, right after I finished my engineering, I took a gap year to sort of unplug, pause, rediscover myself. So I traveled around the world. I lived at NGOs. I lived at orphanages. So I've been to Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Vietnam. I've spent months, just at medical camps, spreading HIV awareness. And that was the first time as a male, I saw, when girls and women don't have access to sanitary pads or period care products, what actually happens, and from not just biological point of view, but socio-economic point of view as well. So, that was the first time when I was asking our NGO partner, in Kenya, that why do we see this girls that not coming to school? And there were a lot of aspects. There was we're looking at low income bracket, but at the same time, inability to purchase sanitary pads. So that was the first time I saw that having access to one of the products that we would pretty much oversee, because I grew up in North America as well. So like for us to visualize this, it was like, for me it was a shock, from both male point of view, that not having access to this product can actually have this much implication. And as we were doing more research, period poverty it exists in not just in developing countries. It exists in India, it exists in North America, it exists in the UK. So it is one of, when you actually try to see, you will see. It's that type of thing, right? So so that was the first time I, as a male, I came across what it is like not having access to period products. And then from there, I came back to India. I met Hetal. Actually, we met in kindergarten since we were 5, but we started dating in 2017. So that was so we go back to my early 20s, where the first time I was hit with the fact that this is the implication of one product on so many aspects of a young teen's life. So like in 2017, we started our NGO, and we started donating pads. So what we used to do is we used to purchase pads from third-party manufacturers, and we started donating them through our NGO called United World Foundation. And so that is where we first learn about the different layers of the product. Why does one product cost more versus the other product? So that is where we try to see what type of layers that are there. And the more plastic inside, the less it would cost. So when we were donating these products, it sort of we are trying to solve one problem, but at the same time, we are creating another one from sustainability point of view, right? So that was the first step where first realization, okay, now there is a problem that exists, and what can we do to solve this? And that is where the banana plantation and the farming background sort of came into the picture, and then as we started discussing, okay, maybe we can create a product that can address multiple aspects at the same time. And that is where she also told me about the social aspect, about the health aspect, and that is where we sort of started building the product one by one, in terms of making a socio-economic impact as well, because giving has been pretty much one of the core centerstone of what we are trying to do, or why we started. So we are trying to make an impact in 2 to 3 ways. So for example, if there are direct donations that we do, so every month we have these activities where we donate directly directly to the NGOs. And there are different activities where there are some NGOs where they want to participate, but they would like to purchase the products at a subsidized rate. So we are pretty much providing them at a very low cost. So they also don't feel that it's simply donations. And then so there are ways where we are trying to make it pretty much as affordable, or even as a much lower cost compared to the conventional products, so more people can have access to sustainable products. And the other area that we are trying to also explore in the next months, and we have done a couple of collaborations like that, is with corporations as well. So there is a number of corporations where they're saying that we want to be part of what you are trying to achieve. We would like to donate, let's say, 5,000, 10,000 pads to these NGOs. And then so we are trying to again provide a very subsidized rate, pretty much at cost, at so this way, the more people, it's a collaborative effort. Because the first reason why when we started Sparkle was also simply purchasing pads and then donating. But just donating pads, it's not a sustainable way in the long run, so we need to get more people involved until we reach this equilibrium of getting the accessibility from 35% to 70, 80, 90%. So initially, even at this point, our when we look at the market segment as well, we are trying to educate people who are already using these products, and we're trying to make them aware about the environmental impact, about the health impact. But again, this is a very small proportion of population, especially in India. But at this, there's a large number of people that are currently not even using sanitary pads, so there another challenge is the accessibility, awareness, education. So there we are looking at a slightly different approach through our NGO partners, through direct donations, through donating at subsidized rates, through our corporate collaboration. So there, when we're looking at the other 65% of population, where once they are using these products, then the sustainability come into place. So so there are different layers of challenges as we were beginning, as it's a multi-dimensional problem. You have the health aspect, you have the environmental aspect, you have socio-economic aspect, you have financial aspect. So trying to find a balance here and trying to bring in sustainability while trying to address all these issues, that is where the challenges, and that is where the opportunities as well, from any company. So like when we look at these all the challenges, we're trying to see, okay, for the customers who are already using the products, who are willing to pay the extra price, I mean, they are absolutely loving the product. For those who are still struggling with the accessibility and the affordability, there we are trying, that is where the long-term vision comes into place, like making it as affordable as possible. So the pricing is not the factor that is deciding. And again, as we were discussing, that is where it requires a collaboration, not just from us, but also the industry players as well, because we sort of, our pricing at the moment, until we become fully vertically integrated, it depends on the supplier pricing, right? So again, we are trying to push this, because in India, with current production capacity we have, which is around 1,000 pieces per minute. So we are the biggest manufacturer of sustainable sanitary pads in India. And with that volume, comes a little bit of leverage as well when we talk to supplier, because these suppliers pretty much do their forecast of 5-year, 10-year based on what the consumer wants and also what the manufacturer wants as well, because we are the voices of consumers, right? And when we go to the supplier that this is the capacity that we want to have, and then the first project that we have is one line, but right now, like we are going to we're planning to have another line installed. Also, we're going to expand into other absorbent hygiene products. So let's say sanitary pads have similar structure as baby diapers as well. Again, a lot of plastic that goes inside, pretty much same layer, top sheet, back sheet, absorbent core. So when you start understanding these absorbent hygiene products as a whole, as a category, like we started from sanitary pads, and but there is a whole lot of other products that are pretty much causing equal amount of plastic pollution. And then all the supplier who supply raw material for sanitary pads, they are pretty much supplying the same raw materials to baby diaper, adult diaper, maternity pad, under pads. So all these products, when you look at the from supplier point of view, we're trying to push them, to also develop products that are develop ingredients for us. For them, it's the end product. For us, it's the ingredient. So like everybody's trying to make the switch. Like we went to recent a number of conferences, and one theme was common, which was sustainability. Like there's 20 presentation, every single presentation, even if they're producers of plastic, there is a 2 to 3 slides of sustainability. So there is no denying that it is coming from the niche to a mainstream. Like eventually this is the direction the world is going in, and I'm very thankful for the millennials and Gen Z. Like these the young people are very vocal. They are willing to pay the premium price. They know what they want. They want something that is good for the planet in the long run as well. So this is what is driving the demand, and this is we as a manufacturer, we're conveying this demand to these
a slightly different question, just something that I always find interesting is if there are any sustainability leaders that you admire, or perhaps books or a podcast or a TV show or some form of movies that you can recommend that are either about sustainability overall or perhaps something about the industry that you work in.
Okay. We have been following Sustainability Champions social media page since many years, and that was a great source of inspiration and amazing way to learn more about the people from the different globe who are working towards the sustainability.
We did the first post, I think, back in 2020 or so, and we got a huge response. Like we got messages from all over the world.
Amazing.
So Sustainability Champion was one of the very first intro for us, and even this podcast has been also inspiration. Like we are now going to use this medium as a platform to talk to more people as well.
Amazing.
And yeah, I mean, we would love to hear actually which type of like we would like to hear your thoughts as well. Like which books or which TV shows would you recommend?
Thank you. Yeah, well, so from my point of view, one thing that I absolutely love, and this was, and also I really appreciate your kind words. It's always really nice to hear these kind of things. From my point of view, one thing that I find very inspiring is it's a book, but it's also a website called Drawdown. Okay. And the concept behind Drawdown is really basically the top 100 solutions that are currently available for us to mitigate climate change and to turn it around and reduce the amount of the amount of greenhouse gases that are being emitted into the environment. And the reason why I find it so inspiring is because it focuses on solutions, which is very much what Sustainability Champions is all about. We focus on people who are taking action to actually solve the challenges of the environment. And Drawdown, basically their thesis is that there are here are the 100 top solutions that are currently available right now, the technology that we have today, that can actually make a big difference in pretty quick time. The interesting thing, and this goes back to something that you were mentioning earlier and that I was thinking about, but the interesting thing about one of the top 5 solutions that have been listed for the last 5 years, at least, or the last few years that I've been following it, is education of women. That's one of the top 5, sometimes top 3, depending on how you filter the results. But basically the point is that when young girls and women have the opportunity to be educated. It increases their likelihood of having children later on in life and having fewer children. And that's a really important part of the equation is, population, the amount of population. And so the fact that through, by reducing period poverty, as you're saying, by providing equal access and equal opportunity for young women to, have the opportunity to keep going to school. That's a huge aspect, both societally, not only from a societal point of view, but also for the environment. And so,
definitely. See, if it just a one random, like not random, sorry, it's one statistics is, if like it's according to UNICEF, in India, around 23% of young girls drop out of school after they, reach puberty. And another shocking statistics is when they have access to sanitary pads, 90% of the dropout rates decreases. So it's an effective tool. It's proven that when having access to sanitary pads has a direct impact on girls being able to stay in school. So as you were mentioning, it is a big and there is a saying here as well that when you educate a girl, educate a whole family, because that will pretty much start a chain reaction, to have a civilized society and the community altogether. So I completely agree with what you were saying.
Yeah, and it's amazing how, I mean, that impact, 90% fewer dropouts, educate an entire family, all of these things. And the solution is so simple, and you're creating that solution and you're providing it to people, and you have a 40-year plan on how you can make sure that as many people can access it as possible. And that's really phenomenal. So on that point, what can people do on a daily basis to be more sustainable in their daily lives? And if you have some answers specifically in terms of how it relates to the work that you're doing, that's great. But if you also have thoughts on general, that's also.
So there are many things, everyone can do. There are small things we can do in our daily lives, that can make a big impact. From a sustainable period care point of view, there are, sustainable sanitary pads is one of the alternatives, but there are a number of alternatives that are out there. If you look at reusable cloth pads, if you look at menstrual cups, menstrual discs, so anything that is not causing plastic pollution is a win from sustainability point of view. When we look at, for non-menstruators or people, from just the basic studies, like if you look at India, like 60% of the waste that pretty much goes to landfill, it's organic waste that can be composted, so like, and if people have the passion and the willingness, that is one of the great options that, that can be explored in day-to-day life. Another one, anything, maybe donating it to nearby NGOs, or so just that trying to reduce.
Very sure, I missed the third one.
Sure. So like if we look at the clothes or shoes that we don't use anymore, rather than just throwing in landfills, perhaps maybe if they're in a good condition, maybe donating or maybe using that for a little longer period. So anything that we can do to reduce the amount of waste that is that we generate is one of the ways to live a sustainable life, and that does not require going out of your way. Just maybe a little bit of changes in lifestyle that can go a long way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I always think about composting as being one of the biggest activities, one of the biggest impact activities that people can take, because most of the waste that goes to landfill it's food waste of some form. It's and it's totally biodegradable naturally.
Yeah, I know.
And
you don't need to reinvent or do any technological advancement. It is readily available by nature,
Exactly. Yeah, just going back to that idea of circularity, once you compost it goes back into circulation, and it can be used again for something else. So I think that's such a big opportunity, and it's so simple as well. And you have to have the ability to do it. Sometimes living in a city, you just don't have the opportunity to compost. If you live in a really big city, there's nowhere to do it. But occasionally, if you look for it, you can find places and ways to do it. So I think those are great recommendations. Now, as far as people who are interested in actually switching to Sparkle products or who want to learn more about the work that you're doing, the impact that you're having, where is the best place for people to go to learn about it?
To learn more about our work, you can visit on our website www.sparkle.life. So our products are available in India through our website, Amazon and Flipkart. We are also going to launch our products nationwide through different offline chain stores in India in October this year. In the US, our products will be available through our website and Amazon during the last quarter of this year. And we are also aimed to launch our products in the retail chain stores of US in the first quarter of 2023.
So our products are going to be available in October or November of this year through online platforms. And then I'm actually traveling there in September to participate in Natural Products Expo, as well as in, so there is a whole series of events that are going to lead up to sort of like it's so hopefully in the next couple of months, like we should be able to be available through a couple of offline retail stores as well as a number of online platforms as well.
Amazing. Well, congratulations and best of luck as you go prepare towards the big launch, and yeah, wishing you the best of luck. So Hetal, Chirag, yeah, thank you both very much for your time and for the fascinating conversation. I think, as I've mentioned, the impact that you're having from an environmental and from a socio-economic and cultural point of view is huge, and you're just getting started. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how the next 40 years go. Definitely. And where Sparkle will go from here. So yeah, thank you both very much for your time, and best of luck on the journey.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Yes.
GlobeChain is the largest and fastest growing ESG reuse marketplace that helps companies become more sustainable, save money, and achieve their ESG and SDG targets. GlobeChain connects companies from the construction, retail, hospitality, and office sectors with nonprofits, small businesses, and people to redistribute unneeded items, reducing waste from going to landfill. From fixtures and fittings going to thrift stores and being upcycled by fashion students, to construction material being reused to help build schools, items are requested super quickly and help generate impact to local communities. So far, GlobeChain has diverted over 58 million kilograms of items from landfill, and they've helped over 50 million people across the world, saving them 350 million pounds through reuse. Check them out at globechain.com.